And we are back. Um, I feel good. I hope that you feel the same. I know uh like I'm in a good groove. I'm in a good mood today. Um like I planned on obviously recording just so to keep the normal cadence, but like I was on point about it. Like, and I feel like the last three recordings, last episode was our 30th, which was an accomplishment. And then I remember leading up to the 30th, I'm like, oh, we're gonna hit 30 at some point, and then now this is our 31st, so we're making strides, and I feel like this has now become our normal, like to come here and open dialogue around like creativity. I feel like it's now a part of like our weekly thing. It's routine now. But I'm not gonna bore you with how I'm feeling at this present moment, and I want us to kind of do what we always do. Is start off with a exercise in mindfulness. I woke up and I did some yoga. I'm starting to get back on my mat, which has been fun, and I've been consistent over the last few weeks. So I'm not as flexible as I once was, but back then I was doing all types of stuff on the mat. So I'm getting back slowly, but yeah. So an episode of mindfulness, and how we usually do it is focusing on your breath, 10 breaths, starting now. And now that we're here, like we always do at this time, I have a brain teaser for you to get your mind going, get our brains sharp and active. And the one I have for you today is: I can be cracked, made, told, and played. What am I? I can be cracked, made, told, and played. What am I? As you think about that, I'll tell you what I've been thinking about this week. I think one of the things that I think one of the things that I hear a lot about myself is how confident I come across, and how confident I am. And depending on who you ask, some might say there's some arrogance. I don't believe that there's arrogance. I think it's purely that it's just, I don't know. I've over the years, and it started from when I was a child. I've learned to develop my confidence, and I think what I attribute it to is just my own self awareness. And I think the more this was a conversation, self awareness and empathy, in the last time we spoke. But the more I learn about myself, the more I understand how unique I am. And when I find out, or when I continue to discover my uniqueness, I learn to appreciate that about myself, and then find where exactly that uniqueness fits in the world amongst the people around me, right? And I think it's a beautiful realization, and it's one of those things that now that I know who I am and what I'm capable of and how unique I am, and my differentiators in comparison to the people around me, which again, I don't want to. It's less about the comparison part of it, because I once heard the phrase that comparison is the thief of joy. And I believe that. So it's less about comparing and just more about recognizing your own uniqueness. And what's interesting is I've now kind of grown into my confidence, and it is now it is evident in how I create and my creativity. I think confidence in yourself and confidence in your creativity are two different things. But one has to happen first, and then it helps kind of propel the other, for lack of a better word. I got invited to this, I think it's CultureCon, this creativity event here in New York City, in Brooklyn, a few days ago, and it was interesting and cool because you have all these creative people in the same room, and sometimes I forget, because a lot of us, when we describe ourselves or we present ourselves as creatives, right? But in a room full of creatives, how do you differentiate yourself? And a huge part of that is it doubles as like a networking event, because hey, we talked about creating creative spaces and is being in rooms with other creative people who are actively pursuing their creativity. But now that you're in this room and there's an opportunity to network, there's a certain level of confidence in what you do, because the next person is arguably just as creative as you, right? So when two or more creative people are in a room, how does your confidence show itself in the things that you're doing, the things that you're creating? And there's always that icebreaker moment where it's like, hey, what do you do? And I guess the generic answer is, oh, I'm a creative. Like, we all here are creatives, but so what exactly, what space are you in? How does your creativity manifest itself? And then you get people describing what it is that they're doing. But it's interesting because there's a confidence element in it, right? It's confident enough to know that I am creative enough to be in the space, and I'm confident to know that my creativity is good enough for me to present it to the world, and it's something that I can stand behind. So the whole night was this experience of and this exercise of being immersed in creativity, but seeing the varying confidence level in the individual creatives in their creativity in that particular moment. And it was beautiful to watch because as in any networking event, they are the overtly confident group. There's the subtle confidence group. And there's the ones that are just kind of tweeners, right? They're in between. They're trying to figure it out. But all in all, I think there was certain things put in place as icebreakers. Like they had this bingo game that served as an icebreaker. But all in all, it was refreshing to be around other creatives. But it got me to think about how exactly do you as a creative develop confidence in your creativity, right? And as much as, just like we talked about how empathy and self-awareness and it's that personal journey, I think it's a personal experience that eventually showcase itself within your creative outlets, right? So for me, it's like, when I started off this conversation saying, one thing I realized the more I became self-aware was my uniqueness. And the more I recognize what made me unique amongst my peers, is the more confidence I developed, because I started to understand that there's no other perspective out there in the world that is just like mine. And if my perspective is supposed to be viewed, if it's supposed to be available, and if it's supposed to be consumed, then it is on me to be able to deliver it to the world, right? Because I've always said that, especially if we take this to an artistic analogy, it's like, even if you had Basquiat's canvas, you had Basquiat's tools, you even had an opportunity to see exactly what he wants, if he gave you insights into what exactly the art he wanted to create, and he gave you his inspiration, the moment you had, if I gave both of you guys the paintbrush on the same canvas, I guarantee you the outcome would be completely different. And that's the uniqueness of our perspective. And one of those things is understanding that when you start to understand the uniqueness of your own perspective, that brings a level of confidence, because now you start to believe that nobody can do what you can do the way you do it. And that in itself is a eureka moment for a lot of creatives. But in order to accomplish that, understand your uniqueness, it's finding yourself along that journey, right? And to be able to find yourself, you have to allow yourself to be able to fail at what it is, fail at learning yourself, right? Fail at figuring out, like, who am I? What is my identity in this creative space? What is my creative identity? And in order to do that, it involves some inspiration and replication, and even mimicking of what you see around you, because that's how we get inspired. But eventually you're going to find your niche. And when you do that, it's about recognizing the authenticity that comes from creating, right? And I think if you allow yourself to fail, right, and then you're not hard on yourself. So it's again, it's a learning process. And there's a saying that says, failure is not it's not a loss, it's a lesson. And if you take that approach and realize, like, hey, I'm trying to perfect this idea of who I am through my creativity, and there are going to be missteps. I'm going to fumble and stumble along the way, but ultimately I'm finding myself, and I'm finding my creative identity. Actually, telling yourself you're going to allow yourself to be able to fail and learn from that failure, and actually doing it, is two different things. It takes a level of effort, right? And when I think about what are the things that I do to allow myself the creative space to be able to learn myself and fail, is I try to create a judgment-free environment, right? An area that I feel safe enough to be authentically myself. And I'm always intentional about that. So, for example, like in class, I would start off by saying that, hey, what we're entering as we're at the start of class is a judgment-free zone. And it's important because you as a creative need to be vulnerable. You need to be able to, in this journey of finding yourself and finding your confidence, you need to be in a space that it allows you to take chances and take risks and step outside whatever you think is comfortable. And the only way to do that is knowing that you're going to be able to do that without being judged. So it's important for your confidence to be able to kind of work to the point that you get there. And a huge part of becoming confident after you're in that particular judgment-free zone, it's just the practice of it, right? Like the repetition, working on your creativity, working on your craft, and continuing to build upon the foundation that you laid for your creativity. I think there's this, you don't wake up. There's this thing, there's always a sports analogy, like some people are born like naturally gifted and other people have to work at it. But this, if you think about it, this goes in line with the theme, or one of the points that I've always said about creativity. As human beings, we're inherently creative. It is a natural part of who we are. And it's on us to refine that skill. And the best way for us to do that is just repetition and continuing to work on our craft. And the more you do that, the more confident you become, because it's almost like you've given yourself I guess the creativity, the creative confidence to know that whatever you comes from your creativity is going to be something that you are willing to stand behind. And that's important. That's important for us to be able to know that we've done this enough time with enough muscle memory that I know whatever comes from this is something that I will have all the confidence in, and I'll be able to showcase it and show it off to whoever needs to see it. And as I said, show off. I remember there's this exercise that I do, especially with my students, and I would ask like, who here loves to show off? And I want to say 9 out of 10 or 10 out of 10 will say that they don't. And then I would make a connection to say, okay, well, when you hear the term show off, what comes to mind? And you think of these arrogant, bashful individuals that are mainly celebrities, just because it is a reference point that we all would be able to kind of to connect to. And it's always these arrogant, in your face. And because we've made the association of show off to that, we've attached that to certain individuals. We don't see ourselves in those individuals. So when we hear the term show off, that's who we think about. But I think in reality, showing off comes with a level of confidence. Now it can be a mask. We can get in the conversation of like alter ego and just creating this persona that almost steps in front of you, and that persona provides you a level of confidence because it almost acts as a protective shield. But I don't know that you're wrong for doing that as a creative, but I also know that showing off comes with a level of confidence. And I don't think it's wrong to be able to show off, especially if the work is authentic and you know that it is true to who you are. And it's important for us to understand that as much as showing off might have a negative connotation, I think being confident in your work and being able to showcase your work without reservations is a beautiful thing for any artist, for any creative. And I don't think we should hide behind any of these terms or use it as something to deter us from finding ourselves and finding our confidence in our own creativity. And another thing that as you continue to learn yourself and learn your creativity, you start to now trust your own instincts, because now you're more comfortable than you've ever been with your creativity. And then it's almost like intuition and instincts step in. And when you're able to do that, it's this sixth sense that becomes activated. I've always said that when you get a deeper relationship or a more intimate relationship with your five senses, it unlocks your sixth, which is intuition. And that intuition allows you to create with a level of confidence that you might not have unlocked prior to that. And that intuition brings instincts and your ability to come up with unique ideas that might not be obvious, especially from the naked eye. And that is important, because now we understand that, hey, because of this heightened level of creativity that I've unlocked with my confidence, it gives me an opportunity to further change the world and impact the world through my creativity. And it is your confidence that allows you to want to continue to create, that makes a way for you to create. And it also gives you that extra push you need to be able to showcase your creativity to the rest of the world. And I think all that is important. But in reality, if I kind of bring this all together, I think there's a certain level of confidence that is needed to be creative. And confidence doesn't necessarily have to be in your face. There's a subtle confidence. There's this quiet confidence. And I think sometimes we have to be encouraged to be able to show off our creative prowess. And for a lot of us, when we see creative people who are living in their creativity and have gotten some sort of notoriety from their creativity, we see them as this finished product, as opposed to the journey it took for them to develop this creative confidence. So it's important that you don't measure yourself against a finished product or a polished product, especially as it relates to creativity, because creativity is a never-ending journey, and just like confidence that supports your creativity and allows you to showcase your creativity, it's developed over time, and you need to allow yourself to develop in it. And as you continue to develop, as you continue to learn yourself, understand your unique perspective, I think you'll see that not only influence but impacts your creativity in a way that it might not have ever been before. So it's important that we continue to create spaces, create opportunities, and surround ourselves with the influential creatives and influential experience that can help bring confidence not only in ourselves, but in the works that we create. And that will forever be important. I think there's a certain level of creativity that is needed to be. There's a certain level of confidence that is needed to be creative. And the moment you understand that, and the moment that you allow yourself to be confident in yourself, that confidence is going to eventually permeate through your creative work. And that is what I want from you ultimately. Well, for you ultimately. With that said, I'm not going to extend this further than it needs to be. I will end how we started, and it was with this brain teaser. I can be cracked, made, told, and played. What am I? I am a joke. Don't take life too seriously, please. Allow yourself to fail. Allow yourself to learn. Allow yourself to build your confidence. And then when you do that, you'll see remarkable things happen to your creativity. Go be great.